Now it's time for your eye in the sky for the next 6 weeks' weather. Brought to you by Hawkeye Pro from Ravenstown, where the proof is in the paddock.
Right now, though, Tony T, Blue Skies Weather is with us. Tony, welcome to the show as usual, mate. Lovely to see you.
Good to see you again.
Okay, we want to talk about the next 6 weeks, but beforehand, I want to talk to you about Wellington. That 36 to 48 hours, 77 mils of rain. I was interested in yesterday with some comment from Met Service, not kind of saying we got it wrong, but kind of explaining why the forecast didn't come through. And I guess, I know this is unfair, but people comparing it to the massive red warnings for Cyclone Vaianu the week before. What happened?
Yeah, well, I think the comparison is fair in the sense that there was a feeling that people weren't warned particularly well of this event and perhaps overwarned of the other event. So it's probably a fair question to ask, but there are good reasons for those two circumstances. The previous event, the cyclone event, was something that could be seen coming for a long period of time.
Yep.
Now, to be fair, this event in Wellington we saw coming for a week. There's been heavy rain on the east coast of New Zealand, signalled in the weather forecast guidance for about a week. The problem is the location of it was shifting around from day to day as each run of the computer models went through. And it was really only in the last 24 hours prior to the event that it settled on the Wellington region.
So I did see an orange warning for the Wellington region.
Yeah, there was.
We actually got an orange warning for the West Coast on Friday, Saturday, and then it went up. I think what people, and even the Mayor said, and obviously he's being briefed by Civil Defences, we had no warning that it could be this intense. So what caused the intensity then?
Well, it was very intense, and I mean, there was not 77 or even 100 millimetres of rain in 1 hour across Wellington. That occurred in one suburb.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so that's a really, really important distinction to make. And if you've ever spent any time in Wellington, you'll know it's full of hills and valleys that enhance the wind, enhance the rainfall, and the rainfall patterns vary a lot over short distances in Wellington. So that's the first point. Second point is, although there was a clear signal in the broader model data ahead of the event that there was going to be heavy rain, some part of eastern New Zealand in this time frame, this was a particular cloud, an individual thunderstorm or set of storms that dumped its rain very, very quickly in one particular location rather than a broad-scale weather pattern. The two are very different.
But what also seemed to happen is it seemed to, the weather system seemed to sit concentrated across quite a broad area between Wellington City and sort of up into Upper Hutt. It hit Wainui, it hit Johnson, those sort of areas. And it kind of just sat there, and the heavy rain kind of bounced around within it. But it just seemed like normally, and they said, and I picked up a particular term, they said slow-moving thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Normally they're very fast-moving.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Yeah, it's a characteristic of this particular weather system. So you wind back to last week, you were on the coast. What was the weather like there?
Yeah,
it was stormy.
Fast-moving thunderstorms.
It was stormy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There were a lot of storms because there was a lot of instability in the atmosphere. There was a lot of moisture. There were quite intense showers coming through and then moving on. And that air and that weather pattern has rotated across the northern North Island on Friday, Saturday, into the east of the North Island on Sunday and Monday. And that's where that weather system originated from.
Yeah, because it also hit up around Westport and in that area. All right, so it's sort of moving on now. It's still bouncing around a little bit, but it's heading off through...
It's heading off,
It's heading off up through Hawke's Bay, I think, and heading off in that direction. All right, okay. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. But it was very interesting to see it and watching it and going, oh, that's a bit ugly. Next 6 weeks, what are we looking at?
Yeah, well, this week and even next week, we're looking at more of this easterly airflow, this onshore airflow that's working around low-pressure systems to the north, high-pressure systems to the south. So this week, you might have noticed it's particularly cold in Canterbury today. We've had some snow along the hill country. The southeasterly airflow is really quite chilly. So this week, and even moving into next week, is going to be colder than normal. Okay, temperatures are going to be well below normal, particularly in the east of the South Island, but pretty much over the whole country. Next week we move to a bit more of a east to northeast airflow, so things will start to warm up later in the week. Then somewhere around early to mid-May, somewhere around the 7th of May, that sort of time frame, we're going to see a switch back to westerly airflow patterns. So the whole country is going to start to dry out, warm up a little bit, the winds will come in from the west. It'll get a bit wetter on the west coast for your mates there, but for most of New Zealand it's going to be relatively dry for a couple of weeks through the middle of May. And then the tail end risk is the end of May, indications of a cold southerly, so maybe a repeat of this cold southeasterly airflow that we're seeing right now.
How intense was this cold southeasterly airflow and the one potentially we're going to get at the end of May? Because you can kind of put up with it now a little bit, but by the time you're getting into there, you're deeper into winter.
Yeah.
The sun's got less effect. It's going to be a lot colder, isn't it? We will see some significant snow.
Yeah, we probably will. A good southerly outbreak at the end of May is always going to give you more snow than a southerly outbreak in April. Now, we had a similar pattern last year. So at the end of April last year, there was a metre of snow on Mount Hutt. Okay, so that was a significant alpine snowfall, and it was on the high country as well. And then we didn't see another one until the first week of June. So in a sense, we're looking at a similar type of pattern to what we saw last autumn. Cold outbreak, a month's pause before the next one comes along, but more intense.
So certainly we're looking at some snow there. Certainly there's always a silver lining. The ski fields love it, right?
Yeah,
The snow bunnies. So that you want to have a good base somewhere along the line. So, are we going to, will the temperatures stay a bit cooler to hold that?
No, not through the middle part of May. The temperatures are going to come back up again as that westerly block comes in for 2 or 3 weeks in mid-May. So that's probably going to kill all of that snowpack. It's pretty hard to keep snowpack on a ski field through the month of May. It's just too warm. You really need to get to June before you can achieve that. So they'll be lucky if any of the snow that's fallen today hangs around for more than a week or so.
Yeah, because there's snow on, I saw Porter's Pass was shut.
But that's good news for farmers, right? Because for the farming community, it means that this cold outbreak is only going to be a temporary handbrake on grass growth, right? So over the next few weeks, your grass growth's going to rocket back up again, particularly in those areas that have had good rainfall this week.
Yeah, so temperature-wise, we're going to be seeing mid-teens again.
Yeah, we will.
Up into the 20s. I was in Hamilton yesterday. It was 21, 22 degrees. It was quite nice.
In parts of the North Island, we will see 20-degree temperatures again through May. And so your grass growth will come back up again, and that's your ideal time to build that autumn grass growth cover as you head into winter. If we do see that cold outbreak at the end of May, that's probably the final handbrake on grass growth for the South Island.
Yeah, that's the fridge door opening. And you're right. That is the absolute outbreak. Just quickly, any update on the Super El Nino? We talked about it last week.
The El Nino continues to evolve and develop.
Are we still talking super?
Some people are talking super, but not everyone's talking super. And as I said to Sarah last week, super doesn't necessarily mean a lot for New Zealand. It's either El Nino or it's not. That's really what switches our weather patterns. The magnitude of the El Nino event, it's kind of relevant, but not as significant as El Nino or not. And we are definitely heading to El Nino.
All right. Where do people find your forecasts?
blueskies.co.nz/join. That's where you can sign up and subscribe to the 6-week and seasonal outlooks, the type of information we've talked about today. 5-page report for 13 regions around New Zealand. You can subscribe, download that every week.
So you do each region?
Yeah, we do. I do 13 regions around New Zealand with notes about farming and about the impact of the weather on farming. It's a risk management tool, not a weather forecast.
That's actually that's a really interesting point, as you said there, risk management tool, notes on farming. So how to use this advice for what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, you know what's happening on your farm best, but in terms of weather and in terms of impacts. But I can give you that broad picture that helps you understand. Are you going to be wetter, drier, warmer, colder? Is it going to be stormy? Is it going to be settled? How's that going to play out over the weeks ahead and over the months ahead?
We're just a bit out of time, but I meant to ask you this the other day when we sort of did the intro. Your forecasts, you must use multiple models. Do you use multiple models and average, or how do you come up with your 6-week and your seasonal?
Yeah, you do. You use multiple models, but you also use what we call analogues. So you look back at past years and past seasons that have some similar characteristics to where we are today and say, how did those evolve as those seasons went forward? And that then helps us inform a forecast from going forward from today.
You need experience for that. I mean,
well, yeah.
Seriously, you've got to have some.
I've been doing this for over 35 years, Andy.
Right,
so I do bring some experience to the table.
I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting that at all. But I'm saying that's where I agree with that. That's where you get. I mean, I can remember significant El Nino events and what they meant. And you're talking about that as well, and that's sort of indelibly ingrained in my psyche. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking about risks and probabilities. We don't know what the future's going to bring. We don't have a magic crystal ball, but we can look at the patterns and extrapolate with a reasonable degree of confidence.
And that comes back to the discussion right at the start when we talked about the red warnings for the cyclone, and everyone says, oh, it didn't hit us. Well, no, because it only moved slightly in this angle, and but it got them. Everyone goes, oh, you told us it was going to... Yeah, so... It's not an exact science, is it?
It's not an exact science, but equally you can't provide an individualised weather warning for every property in New Zealand, right? Okay, we can't say down the road it's not going to affect you, whereas up the road it will. You've got to accept that there's a degree of general spread across weather forecasting, and then you can interpret that in your own context.
All right, Tony from Blue Skies Weather. We really do appreciate your time on CountryWide CONNECT.
Pleasure.
And we'll talk to you again next week.
Next Gen Tech. Backed by 40 years of soil science, Hawkeye Pro delivers insights every 10 metres to lift your farm's efficiency and sustainability and profitability. If you want more proof in the paddock, visit hawkeye.farm today.